guess, are we conquerors of the world?
No, definitely
I guess, look, let's see how it turns out. It's not over yet, but the world is nearly conquered. Everything's gonna be all right. We got disastrous news, but that's okay. We even have good news today. Nobody saw that coming. And we already have 2 new members that just signed up. One is a gentle giant.
Jake.
We have an army of folks,
Just toss to me, let's get started, please.
No, I gotta tell people about the gentle giant. He's on our side now. Okay, everybody who hits the join button, you're young Turks. We're not the young Turks, you're the young Turks, gentle giant. And also, Jaheim Kais. So Jaheim and the giant in his house. Okay, for God's sake, Anna, do the news.
Okay, all right.
I know, you got me excited because-
He doesn't do cocaine.
No, I don't.
That's not what's happening.
I only do twostrongcoffee.com/TYT, okay? Serious. The Kid Rock story is so funny.
Oh my God, I can't.
I can't.
We made a concerted effort today to have fun in the rundown.
But that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah,
you're seeing.
No, disagree. Not now. Okay, we're seeing lunacy right now.
We're seeing fun in the rundown /2 strong coffee personified. Yep. Okay, anyways, you'll love the Kid Rock story. He rides a giant penis. You'll love it, okay? All right, now serious news.
I was gonna say something so inappropriate, but let's move on.
Save it for later. Save it for later. Hey, look, there's a reason to watch the live show. People get into clips, and God bless your hearts, and you do the super thanks on the clips, etc. But the live, you're missing stuff. The live show is fun. This is anarchy, and it's fun. Yeah. It's anarchy. Okay, all right, for God's sake, go ahead.
We begin with Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse had his first post-trial interview, of course, with Tucker Carlson. And during this interview, some interesting topics came up, namely what Kyle Rittenhouse has to say to President Joe Biden, who he feels has defamed him. Let's watch.
What did you make of the President of the United States calling you a white supremacist?
Mr. President, if I could say one thing to you, I would urge you to go back and watch the trial and understand the facts before you make a statement.
That's not a small thing to be called that.
No, it's actual malice, defaming my character for him to say something like that.
I mean, why do you think, and it's not simply Biden who said that, it's a lot of people on television have said that, dozens of people have said that. I'm sorry to tell you in case you haven't seen it.
Yeah. It's actually quite hysterical how nobody can go back and look at the facts of the case. He crossed state lines, false. He's a white supremacist, false. None of that is true. And the lies that they can just get away with spreading is just sickening, and it's a disgrace to this country.
I couldn't agree more.
They're absurd.
The Tucker Carlson part is my favorite. I mean, Diane Sawyer's got some competition.
Yeah.
Okay, for like the faux concern, like.
Yeah. No, you went Diane Sawyer. That's fair enough because of the maniacal, squinting that she does with that fake concern look she has. I was thinking telenovela, like, dun dun dun. No one can withstand what you have withstood, Kyle Rittenhouse, our beloved hero who went and shot and killed people he thought were left-wingers. Dun dun dun.
All right, okay.
So look. Putting the silliness aside, because that was totally silly. Every part of that was contrived. I mean, they call it fake. The other folks fake news. Every part of that interview that you just saw right there was fake. Like, Mr. President, Rittenhouse says, if I could just say one thing to you, you did this with actual malice. That's what my lawyer told me to tell you, because that's what we're gonna sue on, actual malice. That's a phrase that my lawyer gave, and I will say as if I mean it earnestly. I don't know why anybody thought I was a white supremacist. All I did was flash the white supremacist sign right afterwards in a picture that I took when I was released.
I need you to control yourself a little bit during this story. Because I just want to be able to present some parts of this that I think are relevant. Because did President Joe Biden, because like that statement actually shocked me, because we know what Democrats are like. I'm talking about Democratic politicians. They are insanely cowardly, okay, and very careful in their language. They don't just willy-nilly go around using strong language like this person is a white supremacist. Certainly not someone like Joe Biden, right? So I was like, oh, did Joe Biden really refer to Kyle Rittenhouse as a white supremacist? And what they're referring to here is actually a tweet by Joe Biden. The tweet itself doesn't refer to Kyle Rittenhouse as a white supremacist. In fact, let's go to that tweet, graphic 1. There's no other way to put it. The president of the United States refused to disavow white supremacists on the debate stage last night. So this is when Joe Biden wasn't president yet. He's running for president. And he very clearly there is making a reference to Donald Trump and his unwillingness to just release a statement urging the right-wing violence to stop. That's what he's referring to. But as you can see, there's a video embedded there, and the video very briefly flashes a photo of Kyle Rittenhouse. So therefore, Kyle Rittenhouse feels that in the act of posting this video, President Joe Biden had referred to Kyle Rittenhouse as a white supremacist. So we have that snippet from the video to show you. Let's take a quick look at that, and then we can discuss.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland? Are you prepared to specifically do it?
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing.
So the idea that Kyle Rittenhouse can successfully sue President Joe Biden for defamation, using an argument of actual malice and using that video as the evidence. Anyone who buys that doesn't understand, A, how difficult it is to win defamation lawsuits, especially in regard to a public figure like Kyle Rittenhouse. And secondly, proving actual malice is one of the most difficult things, because you have to prove that there was malicious intent in Joe Biden, malicious intent directed toward Kyle Rittenhouse by posting that video, which, by the way, featured Chris Wallace mentioning Kenosha, Wisconsin. And when you think of what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, you of course undeniably think about Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, I'm not debating it. I'm not getting into a debate with idiots. So you see the video, and Wallace clearly says white supremacists and militia. And then when he says, as we saw in Kenosha, they show a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse. And Kyle Rittenhouse in the past has put up white supremacist signs. And he went to what he perceived to be a Black Lives Matter protest with a weapon in case he needed to shoot and kill people. And he did shoot and kill people. They are the victims. So this little boy coming in here and go, oh, I'm the victim. Those people are dead, but they're not the victims. As the judge said in that case, they're rioters, looters, arsonists, whatever. They're left wing of some sort. I killed them, but I got called a bad word, kind of, maybe in the middle of a video, but not really. I'm the victim. And you know what? It works like a charm. The right wing audience loves that telenovela where they get to shoot and kill and maim, and then turn around and be the victim. Be the victim. I was called a white supremacist after I killed these people. I went in there with a weapon, looking to use my weapon, and then I turn around after I kill them, and I say, oh yeah, oh poor me. By the way, guys, even if you're right wing, you know every part of that was maudlin, was put on, it was contrived, it was for his lawsuit. Dude, you killed 2 people and got away with it. Take the win and go home. But nope, this is the time to cash in. Because he knows, and Tucker knows, that the right wing loves to do violence and then cry about it as if they're the victim. So that's that BS that you just saw right there. So Kyle Rittenhouse can go do whatever the hell he wants, and he can cry about this show, any other show, I don't care. You killed 2 people, you are not the victim.
And here is the photo that Cenk was referring to, featuring Kyle Rittenhouse with the Proud Boys flashing the sign that has been taken over by white supremacists, that hand gesture, which is supposed to imply white power. So yeah, it's gonna be a little difficult to sue for defamation when this kind of stuff exists. And so look, the right wing salivates over the notion that Kyle Rittenhouse is gonna get his comeuppance in these lawsuits, but We'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. Anyway,
that he's going to cash in, and they're going to show that all these that they're the ones who are aggrieved. Guys, when you do that sign, okay, this is not from 1987 when everybody was saying A-OK. That is with the Proud Boys. You're doing that sign in a picture with the Proud Boys. There's no question why you're doing it. So don't come and cry later and say, oh, just because I'm hanging out with a bunch of white supremacists and I put up a white supremacist sign after I went to a black protest and killed 2 people because I brought a weapon to kill people. Oh, but poor me, shut up. You and all your stupid right-wing fans who love your violence and who love that white supremacy that you hint at and then wink, wink. Oh, it could have been an okay sign, wink. I did it with the Proud Boys after I killed people, wink. Get out of here, man. You guys are all frauds, total, utter frauds.
So later in the interview, he was asked about his feelings toward protesters and all that. So let's go to that video.
This case has nothing to do with race. It never had anything to do with race. It had to do with the right to self-defense.
Right.
I'm not a racist person. I support the BLM movement. I support peacefully demonstrating. And I believe there needs to be change. I believe there's a lot of prosecutorial misconduct, not just in my case, but in other cases. And it's just amazing to see how much a prosecutor can take advantage of somebody.
So he's gonna talk at length about the prosecutorial process in just a minute. But before we get to that, there was another video where he weighed in on Black Lives Matter. And it seems like he's saying the same thing, so I don't know if there's 2 different versions where there was some editing taking place, but I wanted to provide both versions for you. So let's take a look at the next video.
Why do you think people were burning car stores? What does that have to do with civil rights?
I don't know. I think it was opportunists taking advantage of the BLM movement. I agree with the BLM movement. I agree everybody has the right to protest and assemble, but I do not agree that people have the right to burn down. I don't appreciate that people are burning down American cities to try to spread their message. I think there's other ways to go around and do that.
Okay, so look, the only thing I want to say about that is, look, whether you believe him or not, to me, that doesn't even matter. But it is not a private citizen's job, and it certainly is not a 17-year-old's job to take up arms and show up to any community, okay, to do the policing. Again, it is not his job. I get it. You don't want to see communities burned down. I totally understand that. But that's not his job. It is not his job to show up with weapons to protect any community. We're supposed to have law enforcement that's supposed to do that. We're supposed to have authorities that are supposed to protect communities. And if they fail at that job, then you make a decision as an American who has the right to vote someone in or out of office, the ability to make decisions about what happens within your community, right? To come together with other members of your community to make those decisions. The idea that, no, I'm a hero here because I didn't like that, there was some looting taking place. So therefore, I felt the need to take up arms and show up and try to protect that community. It's not your job. Like, I feel like that's missing from every part of the debate, every part of the conversation.
Okay, so here's my opinion. I think that Kyle Rittenhouse is a liar, an obvious liar. You think he took an AR-15 to that protest to support Black Lives Matter? No one in their right mind believes that. If the right wing believed that, they would turn on Kyle Rittenhouse instantly. But they don't believe it either. They watched that and they had a good laugh. He went to go support Black Lives Matter. Then he shot and killed people at the protest. We were there to support Black Lives. He was on the militia side. He was on the militia side. He wasn't on the protest side. Oh, I care about Black Lives Matter. My lawyer also told me to say that because later when I sue, I will say, oh, there was actual malice. And I was just there to support people before I killed them. And they're all, the people I shot are dead, right? But I was there to support them. I just supported them with bullets into their skulls and killed them dead. But I care about Black Lives Matter. I mean, I put up white supremacist hand signals with people who are known to be white supremacists, but it was just a coincidence. My lawyer told me I gotta get, hey, listen, killing people isn't enough. I need to get paid for it. And he get paid a lot of money to kill these people. Because now I'm a hero, I'm an angel among the right wing, I'm the celebrity. Tucker Carlson, what a fraud, what a liar. He's like, they called you a white supremacist. That's very harsh. Why do you think they did that? Because they never showed the sign that we showed you. They never showed you the picture that we showed you. So to the knuckleheads watching Fox News, and to be fair to them, they never saw it, right? The audience never saw it because Tucker lies to them every night. They never saw this. So Tucker says like this, but Tucker knows, Rittenhouse knows he did it. But they both are like, oh, I don't know why. I mean, I go to a Black Lives Matter protest with an AR-15 ready to shoot everybody. And then they say that I'm against black people and they protest. I don't know why. And I put up a white supremacist sign with white supremacists and they call me a white supremacist. They don't even call me a white supremacist, but I pretended they call me a white supremacist. I don't know why. As if they're the victims. Liars, they know. Look, even if they don't agree, you know that they know why he's being called a white supremacist. For them to pretend like they don't know, well, now you know, even if you're a right winger, Tucker Carlson and Kyle Rittenhouse are giant liars. You might like that they're lying, you might like that they killed people you don't agree with, and you might like that he's trying to cash in on killing those people, but that makes you a terrible person. But no matter what though, you know that they're not being honest. Like, oh gee, I can't figure it out. Hey, anybody know why is Kyle being called these things? Anybody know? No, nobody at Fox News can figure it out. It's a news station, but nobody can figure it out. Get out of here.
All right, one more video from the interview.
I believe there needs to be change. I believe there's a lot of prosecutorial misconduct, not just in my case, but in other cases. And it's just amazing to see how much a prosecutor can take advantage of somebody. Like, if they did this to me, imagine what they could have done to a person of color who doesn't maybe have the resources I do or is not widely publicized like my case.
I mean, look, it is incredible that there was so much evidence that was dismissed and not allowed in court, including video of him talking about wanting to go after or literally use his weapon against people who he believed were shoplifting, right? So that showed intent regarding what he was intending on doing with that weapon, but that was not allowed in court. I mean, every part of this trial was honestly pretty favorable toward the defense. Now, again, we all saw the videos and the defense here was self-defense. And based on those videos, you can see that he's in a situation where he could reasonably feel like he needs to defend himself with the weapon. But he put himself in a situation that he, as a 17-year-old, should not have been in, that anyone should not have been in, because it is not a private citizen's job to be a vigilante and to enforce the law. We're supposed to have law enforcement to do that. So it's just an interesting outcome, right? Put yourself in a situation that's dangerous, then you kill people and then argue, well, I had to kill people because I was in a dangerous situation. But I agree. I mean, we do have prosecutorial issues in this country. It's fascinating that he seems to understand pretty clearly that there's a two-tier justice system where those who are at a lower socioeconomic status, those who happen to be people of color, don't typically enjoy the same resources that he got to enjoy in defending himself in court.
Yeah, so look, that last part is the only part that I half believe, because for the right wing, they don't realize that the world exists unless something happens to them. Then they're like, oh, it turns out there's prosecutorial misconduct. Could this happen to black people too? Maybe I shouldn't have went to go shoot them. Oh, right, I said, as Anna said in the quote, I can't wait to shoot people. That's a paraphrase. Oh no, he didn't exactly say that. He said with the shoplifters he would kill them, but it's a paraphrase, it's a paraphrase. Okay, look, you already got away with it. I mean, that trial was so rigged in his favor. The quote that we're referencing, where he wanted to use the weapon, not admissible. Are you insane that that's not admissible? How is that not relevant to this case? He clearly says ahead of time what he's gonna do, then he does it, and you go, oh no, not relevant, because I gotta protect my beloved white supremacist killer, is what the judge basically said. Oh, you wanna cry? You wanna cry? You wanna cry about me calling him that? Go ahead and cry. Do whatever the hell you want. Here's the amount of sympathy I have for Kyle Rittenhouse. Zero. The people who are dead, I have sympathy for. The guy who killed him, and he went to go use his weapon, in the middle of a protest, I have no sympathy for. None, zero. He can cry from here to eternity, and Tucker can do his fake tears along with him. Why, Kyle? Why did they do this to you when you were just about to go kill left-wingers? How could they do this to you? Well, we're not allowed to kill left-wing. We're not allowed to do this anymore. I thought we were above the law, but you were above the law. Take the goddamn win and go home. Nope. Money. Oh, poor victim Kyle Rittenhouse. 0% interest in any of that horse crap.
All right, we're going to cover the Ahmaud Arbery case when we come back after the break.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new, toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at toostrongcoffee.com/TYT.
That 300 million is a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day.
We looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone, 15 billion views.
Damn.
All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Rob Shively. What do you know? Rob says, rejoice, for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me, or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Cenk and Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce, 1971, saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
All right, let me do a little quick plug here. It's not even a plug, I'm bragging, okay? I'm bragging, watch me. We have a channel on YouTube, a whole channel devoted just to the Young Turks. It's badass, right? Wow, man. I can see the voice.
You guys are rock stars.
Unbelievable. Senator Sanders, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Man, you guys are amazing. We gave you what you wanted.
Okay. Speaking of shirts.
I have a surprise.
You reached a lot of people. You are the Young Turks. And we have spread that progressive message wide and far. Let's keep it going.
Here's what we do. We go beyond the headline. We are willing to engage in transparent conversations with those who do not think like me. We also make sure that you know what's happening not only nationally, but in your local area. Make sure you tune in to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time.
Cool news, shoptyt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's a fantastic story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living the American dream.
All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Anna with you guys. Anna's got more news.
There was an audible gasp during the closing arguments of the defense attorney, Laura Hogue, in the trial for the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery. Now, the video that we're about to show you was literally what this woman said, what the defense attorney said in her closing arguments, in her attempt to defend the 3 men who were involved in the fatal shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. Without further ado, let's watch.
Turning Ahmaud Arbery into a victim after the choices that he made does not reflect the reality of what brought Ahmaud Arbery to Satilla Shores in his khaki shorts with no socks to cover his long, dirty toenails.
So at the very end, after she says long, dirty toenails, you hear someone gasp because of how disgusting and shocking that statement was. I mean, just absolute nonsense. Khaki shorts, no socks, long, dirty toenails. And of course, this is an attempt to dehumanize the very person who was hunted down by these 3 men, shot by Travis McMichael. And there's now so much evidence that the McMichaels lied to the police in the police report about what transpired that day. They claim that they pulled up again right next to Ahmaud Arbery to ask some questions. Turns out that they boxed him in, and as he was trying to run away, that was when they decided to, Travis McMichael decided to open fire, shooting him in the chest. And it's just, this is what they do. Just out in the open, dehumanizing him, making him out to be some sort of monster who doesn't deserve to be able to run in a neighborhood, to go jogging in a neighborhood. It's just unbelievable.
Okay, so I know that, and we talked about this just yesterday on the show, the defense attorneys have to do their best to try to defend people, and we give them wide latitude. But Laura Hogue and the entire defense team, well, not the entire defense, the 2, I don't know how big the defense team, the 2 lawyers we've shown you here so far in this case are definitely racist, okay? And they can go cry about that. They go, oh, well, I just said racist things to try to find a racist in the jury that'll let my murderer clients off. So am I a racist for just using racism brazenly? I don't know, and I don't care, Laura. You made that choice. Now you gotta live with that choice, okay? So break down her statement. Number 1, she said, turning Ahmaud Arbery into a victim. What do you mean turning him into a victim? He's dead. They shot him and they killed him. What do you mean turning him into a victim?
He never committed a crime, no evidence of him committing a crime. He was jogging in the neighborhood and these men pursued him because they thought he looked suspicious, because he had the audacity to look into a building that was under construction. And they lied about a string of burglaries in the area. Police records show that there had only been 1 burglary in the vehicle belonging to the McMichaels, which they left unlocked. Okay, so that's the string of burglaries they were referring to. They chased down a black man jogging in that neighborhood because they wanted to chase down the black man jogging in the neighborhood. No evidence of him committing a crime at all whatsoever. And so according to this defense attorney, I guess the only thing that a suspect, a person needs to have for you to justify, shooting and killing them is toenails you don't like. Let's see your toenails, bitch.
Yeah, okay.
Is that what the requirement is? Is that the standard?
Yeah, and of course it has nothing to do with the toenails. What she wanted to do was call him dirty, a savage. It's the kind of racism that we've seen in this country for hundreds of years. She said right before that, she said they're turning him into a victim after the choices he made.
What choices?
What choices? Jogging, this black man decided to be in our neighborhood and then he expected not to be murdered. What kind of a choice did he make? They took him 74 days to arrest the McMichaels. 74 days. This is an open and shut case. Not only did Ahmaud not do any burglary at that house under construction, no one did. There was no burglary at all. in that house that they're talking about after the choices he made. Doesn't he know that this community is filled with racists who would lynch him? But yet he chose to be in that racist community anyway. And here I am doing a racist defense, hoping to find a racist in the jury who'll call him a savage for no goddamn reason, and then let my murdering clients off. I'm not moved that you're the defense attorney. You chose that particular defense. You could have gone with other defenses. And now let me get to the point here. So all that, anyone who watches that and who is not a racist is in a rage over that. The racists go, I don't see it, man, whatever. So he calls him dirty. Hey, he had it coming for jogging in the goddamn neighborhood. Don't you see he was goddamn black? Okay, admit what you think. Admit what you think. You all already took the hoods off, all right? So anyway, the reason she's doing it is she's hoping to find a like-minded racist in the jury so that one juror can deadlock it. She just needs one to go, yeah, he was dirty. Yeah, nah, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want black people in my neighborhood. No, I acquit. Then you got a deadlock jury. The trial went disastrously for the prosecution. I'm sorry, for the defense. For the defense. The prosecution did a perfectly good job. It was an open and shut case. Defense did a terrible job. And I mentioned the other attorney because we showed you the video yesterday and a couple of days ago before that too. He says, I don't want any black pastors in this courtroom. And he said, oh, now there's hundreds of people out there and they're a woke mob. And he called them a violent mob. You know what that so-called mob is? It was about 100 African-American pastors. It doesn't matter what you do. You could be a clergyman and they'll still call you a violent mob. Why? Because they see black people and they're deeply racist. It's a deeply racist defense team defending murdering racists. And they're hoping that there's one like-minded, deeply racist juror so they can get their guy off, or at least deadlocked. And so they can go to a new trial and do it again and again and again. In the old days, they would have found 12 racists and they would have let them off and they would have had a parade for them. Now they just need one guy to screw up this entire trial. So they're not doing anything anymore but fishing for racists.
You know, it's incredible because while they try to paint Ahmaud Arbery as some sort of savage, right? Let's talk about who the real savages are here. I would argue the real savages in this country, not just this trial, not just this case, but in this country, are the people who prioritize private property and protecting private property over protecting human lives. There's no evidence that Ahmaud Arbery engaged in any type of criminal activity or that he burglarized a house that was under construction, no evidence whatsoever. But even if there was evidence, who cares? That justifies shooting and killing people? Because of precious material items, really? I would argue that's the savage behavior. Savages don't value human lives. That's what savages are. Okay, that woman right there, she's the real savage who's trying to justify the murder of a man who was jogging by referencing his toenails, when in reality, what she's doing is justifying the murder of a person who did absolutely nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. And I mean, I don't know, since we're just picking on random things to justify murdering people, I don't like that suit she's wearing. Look at that ugly suit she's wearing. Yeah, I don't know. Well, how would you guys feel about that woman walking into your house wearing that ugly ass suit?
Not even your house, your neighborhood. If she's walking in the neighborhood.
I would not want to see her walking on the sidewalk in front of my home wearing that ugly suit.
And if she doesn't have a pedicure, I mean, she looks like a savage. Now, you don't want to turn her into a victim. Look, guys, we don't want any of that. We don't want any of that. We don't want lawlessness. We don't want chaos. But we're tired of-
We're there.
We're tired of right-wing terrorism that has been done in this country for centuries. Look, I don't want to, when they attack black people after they've been murdered, when they did absolutely nothing wrong, you're pushing us to the limit. And what do I mean by that? You're asking us to talk about history, the history of the South. This is in Georgia. What happened in Georgia? There were savages in Georgia. It was the ancestors of the white right-wingers. They were absolute savages. They murdered people, they lynched people, they raped people, they enslaved people. They took babies from their mothers and sold them as property. You want to talk about savages? Your ancestors were the biggest savages the world has ever seen. So don't you dare call a black man a savage after you murdered him. Don't you dare do that. I'm so sick of African Americans being called violent when the world's worst violence was done to them, not by them, to them, not by them. For God's sake, you want to do racist stereotypes? If it fit anywhere, and it doesn't, but if it fit anywhere, it would certainly fit white right-wingers in the South who has hundreds of years of history of being savages. Savages. They snatched babies and they sold them as property and they raped their mothers. Savages. That's what they were. You want to talk about stereotypes? Screw all of you who still defend that Confederacy, that monstrosity. Anyone who defends that is a barbaric savage.
That's why they don't want to teach American history in public schools. That's why there's been a strong orchestrated effort to prevent the teaching of anything that you just mentioned right now. Because hey, God forbid that, children learn about the real savages in this country's history, right? Let's go ahead and dehumanize people over their toenails, but let's also erase the part of our history that, yes, is dark, that's awful, but is the truth.
You know what white right-wingers did in the South? And they did this for hundreds of years. In a lynching, they not only hung the person, they burned the person, and then they cut off their genitalia. And in the midst of doing all this, I swear to God, you could look it up in the history books. They had a picnic around the body. And then they would take home pieces of the charred body for memorabilia. They would have the kids, their kids, go pick pieces of the body off. And then after they did all of that, they had the temerity to call black people violent. No, no more, no more. You don't ever get to call a black person violent. You don't ever get to do that. So if you're a white right-winger in the South, don't cry about, oh no, my beloved ancestors. Your ancestors were not beloved. They weren't, they were monsters. So I said it because it's true. How you react to that is up to you. You can say, hey, that was terrible. They shouldn't have done that. Let's get better. Or you can say, I kind of love that history. That proves you are just as racist. You just don't get to do it anymore the way that you want. And that's why when you see cases like this and you see a black man murdered, you think, nah, boy, go get him. Go get the way to go, defense. So that's the right wing in this country. And I'm sick of babying them. Oh my God, did we hurt your feelings? I don't care about hurting your feelings. You guys have done racist stereotypes against every minority my entire life. My entire life, all I've ever dealt with is your stupid racist stereotypes, and we're all sick of it.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, ProPublica has released a pretty damning report regarding policing in Louisiana and how law enforcement intentionally covers up their own racial biases by failing to report who they're stopping for these routine traffic stops. So we've got that story and more when we return.
While the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help us over here. Drop it.
We became the first ever daily online web television show. No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process, that is America.
On top of that, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award. Best web host. We passed 1 billion views.
Voice Award winner, news and information channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks. Can I curse? Yeah!
For those of you watching on live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door.
The haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes.
Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against Rollins.
I
told you we were coming.
When you talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America. Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy.
Tick-tock.
I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency.
Tick-tock.
And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country. November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
That's how you do when I smacked it back that I like.
Dave, say hi to the camera.
I don't like this.
All right, back on TYT, Jen Canano with you guys. All right, look, as you guys saw, if you're watching from the beginning, I came in a great mood. It's the stories that enrage me. I can't help it. So unfortunately, we've got another one here. But later, we're gonna switch it up and we're gonna give you different kinds of stories because that's what's in the news today. All right.
An extensive investigation by ProPublica journalists has found that law enforcement in Louisiana is purposely misreporting the ethnicity of those they are stopping for routine traffic stops and issuing tickets to. And it appears to be an attempt to cover up their racial biases. In this case, they are marking the individuals that they stop and give tickets to as white, when in reality, they are Hispanic. Now, of the 167 tickets issued by deputies to drivers with the last name Lopez over a nearly 6-year span, not one of the motorists was labeled as Hispanic, and that's according to the records provided by the Jefferson Parish Clerk of Court. The same was true of the 252 tickets issued to people with the last name Rodriguez, 234 named Martinez, 223 with the last name Hernandez, and 189 with the surname Garcia. Now, why would they do this? Frank Baumgartner, who's a professor over at the University of North Carolina, he is a professor of political science, I think puts it pretty clearly. It's if everybody's white, there can't be any racial bias.
No, isn't that convenient?
Now, the numbers I gave you are nothing compared to the numbers I'm about to give you, because this is a pretty widespread problem, not just in Louisiana, but it appears in the rest of the country as well. So though Louisiana has had its own data collection requirement for 2 decades, it does contain a loophole unlike any other state, right? So the law exempts law enforcement agencies from collecting and delivering data pertaining to the race or ethnicity of people that they're stopping if they have anti-racial profiling policy in place. So they'll have that policy in place, and they can kind of cite that as reason for not reporting the demographic reports that are necessary to ensure that they're not like targeting specific groups of people. Now, in 2001, the state legislature passed a statute that was supposed to improve data collection in traffic stops to combat biased policing. The statute requires officers to record the race, gender, and age of drivers during all traffic stops. The race of the driver is supposed to be based on the observation and perception of the law enforcement officer, according to the statute. It shall not be required to be provided by the person stopped. Now, I think that in and of itself is also a loophole, because the cop could just say, I don't know, I mean, I thought Mr. Hernandez was a white guy. You get what I'm saying? So I'm sure that gets abused as well. But because of the law's provision that departments that have anti-profiling policy in place don't have to collect and deliver data, many don't. A report from the Southern Poverty Law Center found that in 2018, about 2/3 of the state's 331 law enforcement agencies had an anti-racial profiling policy in place, exempting them from even having to report the data to the state. Now, with that in place, I want to get to some of the other data that ProPublica was able to uncover in their investigation here. Let's go to graphic number 6. The data showed that of the almost 80,000 tickets that the Louisiana State Police handed out in Jefferson Parish over nearly 6 years, not a single one of them was issued to a person labeled as Hispanic. Like, if they're trying to cover up their racial bias or whatever bias they have, I get that there's gonna be an urge to do that. But like, it's kind of like someone cheating on an exam. Maybe don't get 100%. Maybe get 1 or 2 wrong. Like in this case, there are 0 Hispanics. Even though there's a history of law enforcement targeting Hispanic drivers in this state. It's like something that's well known. So when you come across with numbers like this, it certainly it raises some suspicion. It also showed a similar pattern in Jefferson Parish's sheriff's department or office. Of the more than 73,000 traffic tickets the office issued between 2015 and September of 2020, deputies identified only 6 of the cited people as Hispanic. As of 2020, Hispanics made up 18% of the parish's population of more than 440,000 people.
Yeah, so let's be clear. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office is purposely covering up what they're doing. There is no ands, ifs, or buts. It is absolutely definitive. They didn't think all those Martinez and Garcias and Rodriguez's were all white and not Hispanic. They're not all just like totally incompetent in being able to tell who's ethnically Hispanic and who's white. They are choosing because they clearly all got orders. Remember, if you're gonna stop Hispanics at a greater percentage, which we certainly do, and you're gonna harass them at a greater percentage, which they certainly do, cover up your crimes by pretending they're white. So they should find out the many people at the top of the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office who made that decision, who executed that decision, and then told every other cop, hey, mark him down as white. Because this is not one cop, this is not a bad seed. This is a decision made at the very top and executed throughout the entire sheriff's office. So whoever is doing there did that, and it might be a number of people, should definitely be fired. Because look at what they're doing. Like, there's a racial component of this, but they know they're doing something wrong, so they're purposely covering it up. Our police are not supposed to cover up crimes. They're supposed to solve crimes. So but in America, this is the insane country we live in, where they think, well, oh, you're targeting Latinos. Oh, that's okay. Oh, you're targeting black people, which we'll get to in a second. Oh, you're being racist against them. Oh, that's totally okay. Oh, you're breaking laws in regards to black people or Latinos. Then yeah, of course, that's what we pay the cops for, to break the law against minorities. Because they're not really cops meant to protect the community. There are overseers meant to attack and bully and intimidate and terrorize minorities and poor people on behalf of rich white people and their property.
And when it comes to Jefferson Parish, it does have a long history of discrimination, not just among the Hispanic population, but also among African Americans in the area as well. And ProPublica has done some fantastic reporting in that regard. So a previous investigation by WWNO/WR KF and ProPublica found that more than 70% of the people Jefferson Parish deputies shot during the past 8 years were black, more than double the parish's black population, and 12 of the 16 people who died after being shot or restrained by deputies during that time were black men. And so there's a reason why there are certain, reporting requirements. There's some skepticism about the demographics that the police and law enforcement happen to target. And so unfortunately that trend continues. And it's frustrating because while you see it bear out in the numbers, when you see it in the actions of the law enforcement, you then get this weird reaction from people who deny that it's happening in the first place. Like, the facts don't care about your feelings. This is the data, it's right in front of us. And this is a pretty extensive investigation by journalists over at ProPublica who looked at the documents, who have the information and put it out pretty simply for us to understand.
So look, if you were to make a case for, unfortunately in this country, Latinos and African Americans are overrepresented in the poorest socioeconomic group, okay? And that group unfortunately also is overrepresented in the day-to-day crimes that happen, right? So some guy on Wall Street might be just as much of a criminal, it might be a much bigger criminal, but he doesn't have to mug you in the streets. He could rob your money through the bank, okay? And have the government protect him. So it doesn't mean that those folks are more criminal, but it does, you can say, hey, you're gonna get a slightly higher percentage of people from those groups just because of their socioeconomic background. And by the way, the racist history that led to that socioeconomic background, but you're gonna get a slightly higher percentage of people arrested in those categories, right? That would be an interesting case to make. In this case, when you see that the last stats that Anna gave you, 70% of the people in Jefferson Parish deputies shot at during the past 8 years were black, more than double the percentage of the population. Well, that's not a little bit over. 12 out of the 16 who died after being shot or restrained by the cops were black. That's not a little above their representation in the community. That is massively above. What that shows you is they're not targeting criminality, they're targeting black people and Latinos. And they know they're doing it. That's why they cover up their crimes they can't pretend black people are white, but they're pretending Hispanic people are white because they know they're going to kick their ass. They know they're going to stop them at too high a rate, and they know they're targeting them. So that's why they're purposely ahead of time covering their tracks. So look, there are huge portions of this country where the cops are the criminals. And if you're white, and especially if you're rich, they're likely not ever going to bother you. So you don't get it. You're like, well, I don't know, they're always protecting me. I see them at the Waffle House. They seem like good guys and they're good in my neighborhood. Well, we're trying to get you to understand that there are other people in the country and they're not good to us. This is what they do. They target minorities 24/7. We're sick of it. Is it a democracy or is it not a democracy? Can we have cops represent all of us and protect all of us? Or do we have to tolerate cops abusing minorities on behalf of racists the rest of our lives? We don't want to tolerate it. It's supposed to be a democracy. And guys, government officials, look, whoever is not racist out there, are you ever gonna do your jobs? All these cops constantly abusing people and then like, oh, you can't do anything to us. Yeah, it's called firing you. Fire them, fire them, fire them, fire them until you find people who are not going to randomly beat up and murder black people, Latino people, pull them over at ridiculous rates and then lie about it. It's not too much to ask for. We're asking for equal justice, not anything more than that. If you're against equal justice, you're against the whole point of this country. Our founding documents are about equal justice. If you don't like it, move to a country that's filled with hate, not a country that's supposed to be built on justice.
All right, let's move on to something a little different because there were two stories that had a similar theme that gives you a sense of honestly how much Me Too really failed. Because when it comes to consequences for people who are convicted of rape, justice system is clearly not taking things too seriously. So, two stories have been uncovered in the media recently involving two different individuals who have been convicted of rape. Yet they were let off with a slap on the wrist. Let's start with the first case involving a Baltimore County, Maryland cop who had been convicted of rape but will not spend a single day behind bars for that crime. Prosecutors say that the judge in that case argued that since the rape victim, in his mind, suffered no psychological injury, then it's not appropriate for this rapist to serve time behind bars. Baltimore County Circuit Judge Keith Truffer suspended all but 4 years of a 15-year prison term and offered the officer here, he's a cop, former cop, Anthony Westerman, to serve it at home. Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger said that the sentence was not appropriate for a police officer who, quote, should know as well or better than others the reprehensibility of such an act. But unfortunately, it seems like the judge doesn't understand the gravity of this. Prosecutors said that in sentencing Anthony Westerman, he's a 27-year-old, Circuit Judge Keith Truffer determined that there was no evidence of any psychological injury to the victim that he raped, despite the fact that she indicated that she had received therapy. By the way, I didn't know that that was the standard. So apparently, according to this judge, the rape is only bad if the judge feels that the rape victim had suffered psychological injuries as a result. I guess that's the standard, according to this judge, which is insane. Insane. We're not talking about someone who's charged with rape. We're talking about someone who's convicted of raping someone. And by the way, what happened exactly? So let's go to graphic 5 here. So there are several women, actually 3 different women who accused him of sexual misconduct. The rape case stemmed from October 4th, 2017, when according to charging documents, Westerman was at a bar in White Marsh and told a woman that he would arrange an Uber to take her and her friend to the second woman's home, but he didn't do that. Westerman instead had the driver take all 3 to his home, where he, it's not alleged at this point because he's been convicted of it, raped one of the women while she was unconscious, according to prosecutors. The 22-year-old woman told her friend about the assault and the 2 immediately left. Westerman, by the way, was also convicted of second-degree assault for an incident involving another woman, a 22-year-old victim. In that case, the woman told police that she was at a birthday party in Middle River when Westerman grabbed her and tried to kiss her multiple times until she left. So he was convicted of rape and sexual assault. There was another rape charge against him involving a 3rd woman, but he was acquitted of that.
So 2 things here before we get to a case that arguably is even worse. So number 1, was it just an honest mistake? And you could have difference of opinion. Well, number 1, he was convicted, so there is no difference of opinion. It was rape. Second, and it's very hard to convict, especially on rape, because the lawyer's always saying, this guy's lawyer is saying it even after the jury verdict, because he's gonna appeal. So, oh, he said, she said. Well, yeah, when you take a person that you said you were gonna put in an Uber, and then you put them in your car instead, and you drive them home, and then you rape their unconscious body, that's not an honest mistake. That's not a he said, she said. That's not a miscommunication. She didn't ask to go to your home. You said you were gonna bring her to her house. Instead, you did what you did. But the judge, because we're run by a male society, and that is the assumptions built into the system and into some of those old judges' heads. Well, I mean, there but for the grace of God. What? No, not there but for the grace of God. No, the guy's convicted. What else do you need? Probation. And then Anna's absolutely right. What is this insult to injury? This new standard where, okay, oh fine, you were raped, but how much did it really damage you psychologically? Are you kidding me?
That doesn't matter.
Are you kidding me? Of course it doesn't matter. What, like now, okay, you were mugged, but were you psychologically injured after the mugging?
Yeah, do you apply that standard to everything else? A crime is a crime. We're talking about rape. We're talking about rape. We're not talking about a property crime. We're talking about a human who was raped, a second human, by the way, who was sexually assaulted by this cop, by someone who's supposed to protect and serve. And then there was the third woman who also accused him of rape, but he was acquitted of that. But by the way, this isn't even a story about cops. This is a story about how little our criminal justice system really gives a damn about protecting people, including people who have been victimized by violent crime, including rape. So let's take a little trip to New York, because there's a second story that I wanna bring up in this context. Guess this is a theme in the news today. So there was another person who confessed, he took a plea deal and admitted to raping 4 different women, okay? Christopher Belter, now 20, entered a plea deal in 2019 in which he agreed to plead guilty to attempted first-degree sexual abuse, third-degree rape, and 2 counts of second-degree sexual abuse, according to court documents. The charges stem from 4 separate incidents in 2017 and 2018 in Lewiston, New York, the documents state. He and the victims were all under 18 at the time. He was 17 when he committed these crimes, okay? Now, he received a super light sentence as part of this plea deal, but he actually violated the terms of the plea deal. That's important context. So Belter was placed on interim probation for 2 years with limits on his internet use and access to pornography, but he violated the terms of his probation. Judge Matthew Murphy denied him youthful offender status and ruled he'd be sentenced as an adult, the documents state. So he, again, violates the terms of his plea deal. By the way, the plea deal is ridiculous. He pled guilty to 4 different sexual misconduct charges. Rape is included in there. So anyway, then Judge Murphy issues a sentence of 8 years of probation and ruled Belter must register as a sex offender, but said prison time would be inappropriate.
Inappropriate for 4 rapes. Inappropriate. Now, I gotta read you these 2 graphics. I'm gonna go to graphic 13 first, because I want you to understand the severity of what happened, if it wasn't already exceedingly clear. One of Belter's victims, identified as MM, was 16 in August of 2018 when Belter raped her and, quote, told her to stop being such a baby, court documents state. She told the court she focused on a plant in his room, quote, as she cried during the attack.
But prison time would be inappropriate according to the judge, Cenk.
Inappropriate. Prison time is inappropriate. As he's raping the 16-year-old, he's telling her to stop being such a baby. But poor guy, I mean, putting him in prison with other criminals. I mean, he's an upstanding young white male. I mean, does that make him a criminal? Well, the judge agonized apparently over it. I don't know which quote enrages me more. Let's go to graphic 12. He said, I agonize. This is Judge Matthew J. Murphy. I agonize. I'm not ashamed to say that I actually prayed over what is the appropriate sentence in this case.
You're so brave for praying. Wow, so brave.
Because there was great pain. There was great harm. There were multiple crimes committed in the case. It seems to me that a sentence that involves incarceration or partial incarceration isn't appropriate, so I'm going to sentence you to probation. But hey guys, don't worry, because he prayed over it. The minute I saw prayed over it, I was like, oh, there we go. Lunatic, right-wing, Christian, right-winger of some sort, right? And guys, if you're a Christian, for God's sake, take your religion back, because almost every person in public that talks about being Christian, it uses it to justify monstrous things. Christianity has wonderful parts. Help the poor, the needy, I could go on and on. The Sermon on the Mount. Will you reclaim your religion from these monsters? Well, I prayed over it, and then I realized I don't care about those 4 young women who were raped. And it is monster. And by the way, the guy admits it 1,000 times over. And he says, I gashed you. He used that word, and I shouldn't have, and I'm so sorry, and I know it affected your life. And the judge goes, 4 rapes of young women.
Prison time would be inappropriate.
Inappropriate. And but I prayed over it, and then realized I don't care about women at all, even though I'm a judge, and I'm not gonna punish you for your rape. You're gonna get probation. So now, look, we all know this. but now add women to the list of people that this country doesn't care about. So if you're historically and still to this day, and history rains down on us, if you're a minority in this country or you're a woman in this country, the white male power structure didn't give a damn about you. You were disposable. Your chattel, your property, quite literally. And it's not just for black people in this country who were taken as slaves. Women were told you're not allowed to vote, and your place is in the home, and you're not allowed to go to work. You're imprisoned inside a house. You must make babies, and if you have any problems inside in your pregnancy, we will punish you because your job is to be carriers of our babies. And that's still happening right now in Texas, Ohio, all over the place. And we covered a story the other day about if you have a miscarriage, they now put you in prison in some places. A Native American woman go to prison right now for having a miscarriage. So, and now in these cases, oh, you've been raped? Well, you didn't prove enough psychological injury. And it's a poor guy, he only raped 4 of you and did it in a brutal fashion. Prison's not appropriate. Well, if you're not sick of that, man, you got gaslit by our media and our culture that told you that it's supposed to be like this. It's not supposed to be.
I never want to hear a goddamn person, like, why didn't the woman report it? I never want to hear that again. Why didn't the woman report it? Because even in a perfect scenario where the perpetrator admits in a court that he had raped the victim, he still gets let off. Probation, because jail time would be inappropriate. So anytime someone argues, well, maybe we should doubt this person because they didn't report it immediately, understand that there are no incentives under this current system to report it because you're victimized further after you've been raped. That's how this justice system works. It's not a justice system. Whether we're talking about black people, Hispanics, women, it is not a justice system. Anyway, we gotta take a break. We'll be back. Cenk Uygur is not here today, which means that I will be able to talk during the show.
We'll see. Poor
Cenk, under the bus.
My God, if Jesus came back, how much would the Republicans hate him? Now you have to give away all of your possessions to the poor. Steve King would be like, oh, Weezy. Everyone should be lucky enough to have a John Iadarola in their life.
You confused everyone.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was pretty clear.
Take a break now.
You can turn me to Dr. Manhattan as long as I get what Dr. Manhattan's packing, okay?
The liberal mom says, Mark Thompson, have you ever thought about doing one of those tapes that soothe people to sleep? Like Mark Thompson reads the phone book. I'd buy it.
If you'll buy it, I'll do it.
Emilio D'Amelio writes in, John, you are so thick. I love you. That's what he wrote.
Pork Chop Express writes in and says John Iadarola needs a new jacket.
Whoa.
Those 24-inch pythons are about to burst out of his sleeve.
Gun, baby. You know, the 2 people here said that their moms were both in love with you over Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm. That's an improvement. I usually get grandmothers.
Charlie Turk.
No, wait a minute, don't you dare.
Chemical castration when we return from the break.
I hope that, who they choose for the White House isn't just a borderline Klansman. That's all we gotta hope.
That's it, we will settle it.
She's cute. I didn't say that about Laura Ingraham.
Scandal at TYT. Did Anna comment on my tan yet? No, she hasn't.
You're a good boss.
But Anna did say that I come in here today with a fresh mind. That's all I'm about. I'm about a fresh mind.
I can't with you right now. Okay?
She just can't. She can't, but nonetheless, we have to for another 3 hours. I'm back, baby. Let's rip into Republicans. See, don't miss the live show.
That's great.
Tell people, if you're a member, you get the whole live show whenever you want, because this stuff doesn't go into any of the clips.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is gonna be a big one. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
What's happening? I'm Dr. Rashad Richey, host of Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Richey. Here's the bottom line. I play no games about policy, period. Too many people's lives are at stake. So here's what I do. I challenge conservative ideology that hinders the growth of this country. I make sure we place our facts in proper context, and I have no problem debating anyone on a position that I have. Progressives have the ideas to change the world, but when you really look at it, progressives have always changed this world for the better. I want you to tune into my new show, Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Richey, right here on the TYT network, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. I'll see you there.
Everything that we've accomplished over the years is because of our members who've allowed us to remain independent of corporate interests and reach 20 million followers. Now is the time to bring as many people into the progressive movement as possible. We're inviting you to be the change and help bring a community-powered progressive change machine to life. Details are at tyt.com/change. If you're a member, thank you. We need you to remain so. If you're one of the thousands of viewers out there who's not a member yet, the time has come for you to join now. We need you more than ever. tyt.com/change. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Lauren McRae wrote in on Super Chat. Cenk has me in tears tonight. But Lauren, look, we were just talking about during the break, me, Anna, and Edwin. Man, I didn't know it was this bad. And you see the news all the way in the year 2021, and it turns out this country's always been run by these terrible, terrible people. If you're not in tears, you don't have any emotion or empathy. We should all be. We got to rise up. We got to do it in a political way, democratic way, but we got to rise up. We can't stand this anymore. So anyway, thank you to all the people who just joined. Rick Lindemann, Allegra Count, Regina RC, Bad Conscious, and Miss Jewel. You guys are all wonderful, and you help us bring real truth and news to people. All right, Anna.
All right, looks like there might be a little bit of good news out of Congress, but don't have too much faith in them because they're good at bungling everything. But nonetheless, here we are. Congress has proposed legislation, bipartisan legislation, that would prevent police and law enforcement from obtaining data from computer systems in our vehicles. As we know, there have been quite a few technological advancements in cars, and most cars now have various computer systems in place. And there have been loopholes in the privacy laws that were allowing cops to essentially collect data from those computer systems. Shockingly, Congress realized that this is a problem, and now both Democrats and Republicans are planning to vote on legislation to limit this spying capability by cops. Now, legislation introduced in both the House and the Senate will force cops to obtain a warrant. Nice, before extracting information stored in the computers on board modern cars, closing what the bill's sponsors say is a glaring, outdated loophole through the Fourth Amendment. Now, the bill has been labeled the Closing the Warrantless Digital Car Search Loophole Act. And again, it has support from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Recent automobile models, by the way, rely heavily on computers for everything from navigation to engine diagnostics to entertainment, and entice drivers to connect their smartphones for added features and convenience. These systems log drivers' movements while also downloading deeply sensitive personal information from their smartphones over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, typically silently without them even knowing about it or consenting to it. So the reason why I give you that information and that context is because we're not talking about like, oh, what's the gas mileage in the car? We're talking about very sensitive personal data and information that cops had access to without a warrant because of this loophole in the way our privacy laws are written. And by the way, the conversion of cars into four-wheeled unprotected databases with troves of information about owners, travels, and associates has presented low-hanging fruit for law enforcement agencies, which are able to legally pull data off a vehicle without the owner's knowledge. They are aided by a small but lucrative industry of tech firms that perform vehicle forensics, extracting not only travel data, but often text messages, photos, and other private information from synced devices.
So this story is actually really good news. So not the invasion of privacy part, that is disastrous. And there's so many stories to get enraged about, but this is another one. Like, no, we don't agree that you could have everything in our phone just because it went in the car. That's absurd, it's totally absurd. So why is there good news here? Because for the first time in a long time, this is actual real bipartisanship. The Republicans are on the right side of this one. And so if you watch this show ever, right, you know I have no brakes in the car for how I rip Republicans and right wingers. So they're gonna get no quarter here at all. But we do actual news. So, and I don't have a bias against Republicans. If they did the right things and the Democrats did the wrong things, then I'd go to their side. And I know a lot of Democrats are, no, you gotta stick with our side even if we're doing the wrong thing. No, I don't agree. All I care about is policy. In this case, the Republicans are not disingenuous. Oftentimes, in fact, on police reform, they were disingenuous. Oh, we'll negotiate with the Democrats and run out the clock while we pretend to do police reform. Wink. Now, why did they not mean it in that case? But they do mean it in this case, in my opinion. In that case, it was mainly about protecting African Americans from getting assaulted by the police. Republicans don't care about that at all. So I told you ahead of time they'd never agree to a deal, and recently they came back and said we couldn't agree to a deal. The Republicans wouldn't give us anything. Of course, right? But in this one, now they're also worried about the cops.
Are they though?
No, I think they are.
Why? I'm actually shocked that they care about this at all. We're talking about people in positions of power who are insulated from the realities that ordinary Americans are dealing with. They're always far more concerned with their own personal financial investments and their donors than anything else. So why do you think they actually care about this?
Because they're hearing it from their base. And the Republicans are much more responsive to their base.
That's true.
The Democrats hate their base.
That's true.
If the Democratic base says something, Democratic leadership is less likely to do it, not more likely to do it. But when the Republican base, which is very active, let's put it kindly, yells at their politicians crap their pants. And I'll give the Republican voters credit for that, okay? The politicians are supposed to serve you. They're supposed to be your representatives, even if I don't agree with you, okay? Now in this case, it's a very rare situation where we do agree. Now, why do we agree? Why are the right wingers coming to our side on this issue? Because this is about police overreach on privacy issues. And you see now with January 6th and others, the right wing is now getting, the police might look into us. So for hundreds of years, the police never looked into the right wing. All they ever did was target the left wing. And then, by the way, you're a Black Panther, you're this, you're that. The police would just kill you and move on with their lives, right? So the right wing loved the cops. But now when the cops actually investigate the law breaking of the right wing, they're like, whoa. We should have some protections here. Of course, but why do you, it's in the Constitution. We're super happy that you finally read a part of it outside of the Second Amendment. So they're like, oh my God, I went 2 amendments down and the Fourth Amendment says they can't have all my information if I didn't commit a crime. That's right. Hey, welcome to America. Great to have you here. And by the way, I'm not being facetious. It is great news. And so when the right wing cares, we can actually get action.
Okay, we should probably get the right wing to care about the fact that social media platforms collect our private data and sell it to third parties all the time.
Well, they do care about that now.
Online
so
retailers.
So that's why the tech companies are in a little bit of trouble.
Right, I mean, online retailers, that's another example. I mean, there's a whole industry of what's referred to as data brokers. And what they do is they buy our personal information from all sorts of websites. You buy something online, when you put in your information, whether it be your address for delivery, your phone number, all of that gets sold to third parties, to so-called data brokers, who then sell our personal information online. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that absolutely should be regulated against, but it's not.
So that one's trickier.
No, huge problem with that.
No, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a huge problem with that, but that's not the government doing it. And so it's a different problem, but the government doing it is much worse. So, and guys, let me explain something that's very important. You can always get a warrant afterwards, and this law absolutely clarifies that, even though it doesn't need to, because it's ingrained in our structural system. So if we have probable cause that you committed a crime, then we can look at your phone, we could look at your car, but it doesn't really matter that your car has the information that's on your phone because we already have a warrant. We could look at your phone and we could look at your URLs, etc. You can look at any evidence you want once you have a warrant after you have probable cause of a crime being committed. The problem here is that they don't have probable cause, they don't have warrants, they're just invading your privacy, and they're invading all of our privacy, left wing, right wing, it doesn't matter. When the government does it, it's not like, oh, hey, Facebook sold it and they made $3 more than they should have on that ad and I'm mad about it, that's my information, etc. No, they can put you in prison, take your freedom away, take your life away, right? So that's why it's more important when the government does it. So, look, I have a little bit of hope that since the right wing is on our side, we could actually pass a law here. Because the left wing is, the left wing is great. The Democratic Party is the most ineffectual party in history. If the right wing was opposed to this, there would be a 0% chance of it passing. It doesn't matter if every Democrat said it or pretended to say it, nothing would ever get done. But when it's actual bipartisanship and not fake corporate bipartisanship, it actually has a shot here. So if you're a right winger, you're on our side here. And left wingers, take yes for an answer. And the last thing that's really good news about this trend is the closer we get to an actual democracy where we have equal justice, the more the right wing gets nervous because they're used to being above the law. And now that the law is being applied to them in certain instances, they're like, wait a minute, we should really have some rights and protections. Exactly. So now we might even get the right wing to care about civil rights. Not just, if you say it's for black people, they'll say, oh, no way, right? But if you say, no, civil rights doesn't mean just black people. It's in the Constitution for everyone. In the beginning, it wasn't even for black people. It was civil rights for white people because that's the only people it applied to originally in the Constitution. Civil rights is for everyone. And so when the right wing gets their mind around that, they're gonna go, oh yeah, and it's in the Constitution? Yeah, that makes sense. We should protect all the citizens from government overreach, government tyranny. There you go. That's what's in the Constitution, and that's all we want.
All right, when we come back from the break, a special segment for When Rich Men Cry. We'll be right back.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was too strong coffee? Yes, new twostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at twostrongcoffee.com/TYT.
That 300 million is a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world. We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day.
We looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone, 15 billion views.
Damn.
All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Rob Shively, what do you know? Rob says, rejoice, for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Jenkins Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce 1971 saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
All right, let me do a little quick plug here. It's not even a plug, I'm bragging, okay? I'm bragging, watch me. We have a channel on YouTube, a whole channel devoted just to the Young Turks. It's badass, right?
Wow, man.
I can see the voice.
You guys are rock stars.
Unbelievable. Senator Sanders, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Man, you guys are amazing. We gave you what you wanted.
Okay.
Speaking of shirts,
I have a surprise.
You reached a lot of people. You are the Young Turks. And we have spread that progressive message wide and far. Let's keep it going.
Here's what we do. We go beyond the headline. We are willing to engage in transparent conversations with those who do not think like me. We also make sure that you know what's happening not only nationally, but in your local area. Make sure you tune in to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time.
Cool news, shoptyt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's a fantastic story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living the American dream.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you. Anna.
All right. There was a fascinating new opinion piece in The Guardian confirming our suspicions that rich men do indeed cry.
I care. That's it.
It never gets old. Like that little quivering lip, it's delicious.
And to me, the best part is the quivering chin. I didn't know your chin could quiver. I'm gonna be taxed a little bit.
Yeah, remember, he's crying over a proposed wealth tax. That was what that segment and those tears were about. Now, luckily, we have an expert weighing in on wealthy people and how damaged they really are. Okay, this is such a fascinating op-ed because I always felt that if you're wealthy, you have an obligation, a responsibility to everyone to enjoy that wealth, but that is not what's happening. So this was written by Clay Cockrell, and it's titled, "I'm a Therapist to the Super Rich. They are as miserable as Succession makes out." And of course, that's a reference to the HBO hit show Succession, which you all should be watching right now because it's fantastic. But I think the takeaway from this is even better. So I'm gonna read a few excerpts and then we'll discuss. Succession is built on the idea of a group of wealthy children vying for who will take the mantle from their father. None of them are able to convince him that they can do it, and that is because they have reached adulthood completely unprepared to take on all responsibility. I think that's a good description without giving any spoilers away, right? Now, he also writes that over the years, I have developed a great deal of empathy for those who have far too much. The television program Succession, now in its third season, does such a good job of exploring the kinds of toxic excess my clients struggle with that when my wife is watching it, I have to leave the room. It just feels like work. So what he's doing here is really justifying some of the anguish that ultra wealthy people experience. And obviously these are difficulties that are very different from what the vast majority of people experience. I would argue not being able to pay for shelter or provide food for your family, like that is clearly something that needs to be addressed and I think should take priority in our society. However, if you are raised in a fabulously wealthy family, as Tucker Carlson was, as the heir of the Swanson fortune. I think Carlson is a perfect example of how damaged you can end up being, right? And it's because of a number of different factors. The fact that you might not feel you have any purpose in life because you don't have to work for things like other people do. So as Cockrell writes in this op-ed, Well, what would it be like if you couldn't trust those close to you? Or if you looked at any new person in your life with deep suspicion? I hear this from my clients all the time. What do they want from me? Or how are they going to manipulate me? Or they're probably only friends with me because of my money. Okay, so let's stop right there. Cenk, weigh in.
Yes, so this story has me conflicted. It's a roller coaster ride. So I'm gonna take you through the whole roller coaster. But
buckle
first,
up.
Okay, yes, definitely buckle up. First, let me just double down on what Anna said. Succession is such a great show. Its executive producers are Adam McKay and Will Ferrell. And Adam McKay right now, the single most successful producer and director in Hollywood. He did The Big Short, he did Vice. He's got the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Don't Look Up, coming out. And he's a huge progressive. Not only has he been on the show, he watches the show like you guys do, okay? And I ran into Will Ferrell once and he's had nice things to say about the show. So it's wonderful to see actual progressives putting out this message, and they're right. It's modeled on the Murdoch family, and every time I watch it, I have great schadenfreude, and I feel so good about myself because I'm like, oh, it turns out these incredibly wealthy right-wingers are neurotic messes, and they're disasters.
They're miserable.
They're totally miserable, and I feel great about it.
Agreed.
Now, that's the beginning of the roller coaster. Now, I don't feel, since I'm such a bleeding heart lib, I don't feel great that all rich people feel miserable. No, when it comes to the right wing and the Murdochs of the world who are doing so much damage to the rest of us, and all those Republican donors who are in favor of their tax cuts, those guys I have no sympathy for, okay? So now, look, is it true? Or is this just like, oh, cry me a river about how rich you are and everybody wants your money and stuff? No, it's true. They are actually miserable. And it's not just this guy saying it. Every interaction that I have had with ultra wealthy folks, they're not in some magical la la land where they're all super happy, like, hey, we made it, we've got money. You assume that because that's how you would feel, because you were poor or middle class, and you've always thought like, oh, if I could just get that, and then I would feel great, etc. But they didn't grow up that way.
So let me contextualize this further because I think it's important. So the very people in this country who have exploited a system that's rigged in their favor, which makes them fabulously wealthy, and other people struggle, still doesn't make them happy. It's not good enough because that comes along with a whole host of other issues, including, are my friends really my friends because they like me? And do I really serve a purpose in life? So yeah, I think that context matters. And look, let me just get this off my chest right away. I don't feel bad for them at all, like 0%. I feel zero empathy for them. Do you feel like maybe your friends aren't genuine? Cry me a goddamn river, okay? Are you living in a cardboard box on the sidewalk? I don't think so. Oh, do you feel like maybe you don't have purpose in life? Go find purpose, bitch. Don't cry about it, okay? You have endless resources to carve a path of your own without having to rely on mama and papa to do everything for you. I know it's tough. It's tough when you have someone wiping your ass for you every single day and you have servants doing everything for you. It's tough to get out of that comfort zone and actually have to work for something. But if you want to find purpose, work for it, okay? After your therapy session, maybe think about what you want to do with your life.
So I'm definitely more conflicted than Anna on this because of two reasons, and then I'll go back to supporting her. Okay, so number one, it's so hard for us to understand how they grew up. They never had to work for anything, and so, and I say this, I get how deeply ironic it is, right? But it sapped them of the best part of life. To me, the best part of life is fulfillment. That's why I talk to you guys like, hey, get involved, go join Wolfpack or Just Democrats or Rebellion Pack, whatever, or whatever your local group is, because fulfillment's a hell of a drug. When you actually work for something and you get it accomplished, it feels so good. Nothing feels better than that. But they've never experienced that their whole lives. And everyone around them is also incredibly wealthy and spoiled and generally miserable. So they're in a bubble. They have no idea how we feel about them. And whenever they hear, oh, they're gonna do a billionaire tax or whatever like that, they think, oh, the masses are evil. and they're coming to get our money, and all they never worked for it, and they just want our money. And everyone around them says the same thing. So they really think they're right, that they're the victims. And I know it seems impossible to believe. How could they possibly think that? But they genuinely do, right? Now that doesn't necessarily make it any better, right? But I'm telling you how they actually think. And so, but I've seen it with my own eyes. They are really miserable. They never find happiness because they didn't earn it. They're constantly worried that people are gonna take their money. They're obsessed with greed. In the book that is almost done, Justice is Coming is the name of my book, and you could pre-order it at justicecomingbook.com. I have a section called Greed is Dumb. And I tell you why we as progressives are smarter than the richest people in the world. Because if your goal is money, it's never enough. It's an endless cycle of greed. So they're always like, more, I need more. They're just like Gollum. They really, Tolkien nailed it, precious. Dude, you already have enough, enjoy it, you schmucks. You schmuck of schmucks, but they really are that clueless.
But I mean, think about what it also takes to become wealthy in a lot of different cases. So oftentimes, I mean, there are people who will literally turn on their own friends, like Dave Rubin, in order to acquire wealth. But then what are you left with? You're left in a room full of people who don't like you, don't respect you, don't really see you as a friend. You abandoned your real friends, and sure, you live in a $5 million mansion, but it's pretty damn lonely in that mansion where everyone in the outside world is mocking you constantly, right?
So that's a little bit different, Anna, because they didn't grow up rich. So the Rubens and Doors of the world, they're crying in their mansions all alone.
But my point is, like, I get what you're saying, and there is a difference. Like, if you've been raised in a wealthy family, that's a different experience from becoming incredibly wealthy. But my point is, wealth by itself is not something that's gonna make an individual happy. What makes a person happy? Like, really stop and think about it. Let's not joke ourselves. Obviously, we all need to have our basic needs met. We all need to have a roof over our heads, comfort in our lives, and all of that. But your happiest moments in life are not the moments where you're like coming up with a ton of cash, right? It's the moments where you get to enjoy moments with your family, right? With your friends, when you have experiences, when you're at a concert with people, when you're able to share an experience with your loved ones, when you experience love with your partner, right? Intimacy, like that's in our code. Like, that's what humans are, right? Like a sense of community. And I think that in our society, in the United States, there's just always such an emphasis on property, on money, on wealth, on all the material stuff that I think it kind of makes people assume that money is like the end all be all of creating happiness in your life. It doesn't create happiness. And in the case of these like people who grow up in wealthy families, yeah, since they've had everything handed to them, they don't know what it's like to have to work hard and accomplish something on your own and feel the thrill of accomplishing something, right? That's why they don't have this sense of purpose. But get over it. You can create a path for yourself. You can use the resources that you're super lucky to have because of your wealthy family to create a path for yourself. I mean, Siobhan could have done that. She could have been the campaign manager for the bootleg Bernie Sanders, but she didn't do it because she wants validation from daddy. I'm talking about Succession, sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
So last part of the roller coaster here, it's a couple turns left, real quick. Look, I've never heard anyone say, oh no, you don't need money unless they were rich. Okay, for poor folks and middle class folks, you know you need money. But at the same time, you shouldn't be obsessed with it because it's definitive. It does not bring you the happiness you think it brings you. And there's limits, right? There's different thresholds. You get to a certain threshold, actually 70,000 a year. We've showed you the studies before. I'm surprised it's that low, right? And that's higher than the average America's income, but it's not like a millionaire or anything. You get to a certain threshold where you're not scared to death of not being able to pay the rent or the mortgage and getting humiliated, etc. Not being able to feed your kids. Once you get past that threshold, then we're all nearly even. And then I'm sure there are other thresholds, but once you get to a point where you're at extreme wealth, The incremental dollars do not help you at all. They probably hurt you, right? So, and by the way, but progressives at the same time, don't hate all wealthy people. That's crazy. There's a lot of wealthy people who started out poor or middle class and made it. And whether they started out middle class or not, there's a lot of wealthy people who do good things in the world. So don't use it as a blanket statement. That's crazy. And then the last turn is this. But if you're not obscenely wealthy, but you're middle class, you're hanging in there, you're doing all right, please enjoy life. There is no magical place where things are filled with unicorns and rainbows. You probably have it as good as it gets.
No, life always sucks. Like, let's just be clear about that, no matter what. No.
Last turn, I didn't expect.
But like, your life is probably not gonna get any better than it is now. No, but seriously, hold on. But think about it, okay? Because again, what really does make you happy in life? It's the people around us, the people closest to us. And as we get older, those people slowly pass. And I know it's like a morbid thing to say, but it really helps me personally enjoy the present because I have the people that I love the most still with me. And so when I'm going through something tough, I'm like, hey, at least I get to go visit my parents over the weekend, or I get to spend time with these loved ones. And so try to put all of that in context. Whatever you're going through right now, it'll eventually pass, but don't forget to enjoy the good parts of your life right now.
Yeah, so to summarize, rich people, go do something good in the world. You'll be shocked at how good you feel. That's the cure to the therapy that you need, okay? That's just, if you're miserable, go spend that money on yourself and on others and you'll feel amazing. And if you're not obscenely wealthy like these folks, don't sweat it, man. It's that kind of wealth, you don't need it, and oftentimes it makes you, or certainly your kids, way more miserable. And I'll end on this. Russell Brand was once on the show, and I asked him, because he said he was really miserable growing up, and then he became famous, and he always wanted to be famous and wealthy. And I asked Russell, did it work? Once you got fame, did you feel better? And he said, not at all. It didn't fill the hole in my heart at all. And so it's an illusion. It's an illusion that the media gives you. Oh, if you're just rich or if you're just famous, you'll be fine. No, you can be fine now. Of course you need some money. There's no question about that. But there's so many wonderful things around you, and in a sense, the good news is we all don't know how good we have it. It doesn't get that much better up there.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Ridley Scott is mad that people don't like his movie, so he's blaming millennials. We'll be right back.
Well, the Young Turks, the Friday show is gonna be awesome. We're gonna help us over here. Drop it. We became the first ever daily online web television show. No, the Constitution is the very core of America. The fact that we don't spy on American citizens, that we get a warrant, that we go to a judge, that we have a procedure, that we have due process, that is America.
On top of that, they go, why don't they just stay at their own schools? You gotta realize something. These schools suck. They want people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You ain't got no straps, you ain't got no boots.
He lit these fires in trash bins all around town out of frustration.
99th most viewed channel today on YouTube.
The Shorties Award.
Best web host.
We passed 1 billion views. Voice Award winner, news and information channel, The Young Turks. Oh, another Webby.
The Young Turks.
Can I curse? Yeah! For those of you watching on the live stream, yes, we have adopted a pet iguana that showed up at our door.
The haunted version in the dark with our silhouettes.
Now let's get to the best line of the debate. And it was definitely the one against police. I told you we were coming.
You talk about it when it becomes a problem. Our lack of gun control is a problem.
Nonsense BS story is hurting that cause, and they need to wake up and recognize that they are being had by these people.
Biggest gang in America. Question is, how do we make sure that we blame the person who is dead? What kind of democracy is that?
We should never forget that the most powerful people in the world exploited the greatest tragedy in American history to go to war in a country that had a lot of oil.
Rolling thunder. That's what this show is.
Never in my life did I think I would like to see a dictator. But if there's going to be one, I want it to be Trump.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Where's the line? We've crossed every line you can imagine.
We are a socialist country. It's socialism for the rich.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
You don't have to know the truth, just believe what they tell you.
There is no bounds to their monstrous hypocrisy.
Tick-tock.
I think we're gonna win the Senate in 2020. And I think we're gonna have the House, and I think we're gonna have the presidency.
Tick-tock.
And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock, and we're gonna run you out of town, and we're gonna have an actual democracy in this country.
November of 2020 could also be potentially the greatest day of our lives. Let us whisper of a dream.
That's how you do when I smack the back that I like.
Say hi to the camera.
I don't like this.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Anna's got more news.
Whenever something's going wrong in life, whenever you fail at something, never take personal responsibility, just blame a millennial. That's what Ridley Scott is doing here because apparently people did not like his latest movie. And he's just saying, well, look, it's because of cell phones and young people who are too dumb to really appreciate this masterpiece that I've put forward. So this is in regard to a film that everyone was expected to do well, but it turned out that it was a flop in the box office. When it arrived exclusively in theaters in late October, 20th Century's The Last Duel, starring Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Jodie Comer, and Ben Affleck, cratered $27 million worldwide off of a $100 million budget. That is a flop. I believe that that is what they call it. So, to be fair, I had not heard of this film. If you're wondering what it's about, well, it's a historical drama set in medieval France. A knight played by Matt Damon's character challenges his squire friend, who's played by Adam Driver's character, to a judicial duel over the alleged rape of Damon's wife. So that's the whole premise of the movie. Now, Scott went on Mark Maron's podcast and gave his thoughts on why the movie did so poorly in the box office. I think it boils down to what we've got today are the audiences who were brought up on these effing cell phones. The millennial, not millennial, millennial, do not ever want to be taught anything unless you're told it on a cell phone. Okay. Apparently millennials have no confidence. That was another point that Ridley Scott wanted to make here. This is a broad stroke, he says, but I think we're dealing with it right now with Facebook. This is a misdirection that has happened where it's given the wrong kind of confidence to this latest generation, I think. Dude, people just didn't like your movie. It's okay. Like it's
no, I actually don't think that's what it is.
Oh no, what happened?
Okay,
was it a masterpiece, Cenk?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't watched it, but I actually do want to watch
a movie about medieval France.
Okay, so
a judicial duel.
I'm enjoying Anna's sass, but I'm going to agree and disagree in parts. Okay, so first, let me say, Ridley Scott is a great director. So he's done some of the best movies in history: Thelma and Louise, American Gangster, Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator. He's a fantastic director. Okay.
Why are you softening the blow, bro? It's all right. Like you could be a great, filmmaker with like some gems in your belt, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, but not really, but
under your belt, yeah. But sometimes they're flops, and that's totally fine. I'm getting texts from Brett, who's like an expert on this kind of stuff. So continue.
Yes, all right.
And we do have a trailer to share with you.
I'm looking forward to it because I might want to watch it. But does he have flops? Of course. Nobody's perfect, and he has a bunch of movies I didn't like at all. Okay, and that's normal. And in this case, does the movie suck? No, I bothered to check. It has pretty high scores on IMDb, on Rotten Tomatoes, etc.
From professional critics?
No, Rotten Tomatoes professional critics, but IMDb and the other and Facebook are all normal people, okay, regular people.
Fair enough.
So the reason why the movies aren't doing well is because of coronavirus. The studios are marketing, but they're having trouble reaching people. People are not going out as much. They are in some areas, but not in others. In major cities, people are still reluctant to go to movies. There's still mask mandates, and all the streaming services have come out, so people are just watching it at home.
You know why?
We've done that many times.
Because it's better at home. It's
I don't agree with that either.
It's more comfortable. You can pause and take a potty break, come back. Maybe you want to get a snack. The snack isn't going to cost you $25.
That's
like the movie theaters suck.
No,
they do. They suck. They suck. They're overpriced. Anyway. But yeah, I think that your analysis here is actually correct. I just don't understand why this man who puts out masterpieces couldn't figure that out and immediately went to it's the millennials' fault. Millennials' fault.
Okay, the Millennium Falcons have really screwed this up. Okay, now let me go to the part I agree with. Okay, so it's your job to figure it out, right? To figure out if you are in the entertainment business, you're in the movie making business, but any part of it. And comedians are also these days like overly sensitive. Oh, people don't like my comedy. I hate them because they're woke or they're politically correct or they're canceling me or whatever. As Seth Rogen said, dude, figure out the room, right? So that's your job, to figure out the room. And so if young people like something else, give it to them, or I guess you're too old and new comics will come, etc. I don't hate all those guys. I don't want to cancel all those guys. But Rogan is right, like not Joe Seth, okay? And he's like, it's literally your job. And so as much as I respect Ridley Scott's work in the past, and maybe this is a great movie, and I'm literally gonna go watch it because I didn't know about it, okay? And I love movie theaters where you get movie popcorn. You know I love that, and that's a different experience. But Ridley, you're not reading the room right. Blaming the audience is definitely the wrong way to go. And blaming young people is crazy, and what old people do all the time. In politics, Joe Biden did it. They're doing it in entertainment. Oh, I didn't succeed. It's the millennials' fault.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
That's obviously dumb.
And also, like, come on, like he's basically accusing millennials of like having unearned confidence. Like he's basically calling people stupid.
Yeah, but you can't say you have unearned confidence and say you should go watch my movie even though you didn't want to.
100%.
You literally didn't earn it in that case.
All right, so let's watch a little clip from the trailer because who knows? I haven't seen the trailer yet. Maybe it is enticing.
I'm married. I was a good wife. And then was judged and shamed by my country.
I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
Oh, it's based on a true story. All of a sudden. All of a sudden. By the way, one other thing is, I didn't even know about this movie's existence.
No, neither did I.
Advertising is a little different these days, and I feel like they're having a tough time catching up to how different things are.
100%. Look, sometimes you'll see it on, they've caught on a tiny bit and you'll see it on YouTube. You'll see some ads online. But you'd be shocked at how old and like, I don't want to say unintelligent, but Hollywood executives have not caught on. Most of the executives in the old companies have not caught on. They're still doing TV advertising. Okay, yeah, people still watch TV, but they're generally 65 years or older. They're not going to the movies. So if you're trying to get millennial to watch your movie and you put all the ads on TV, well, no wonder none of us saw it, right? And they're like, no, internet, I don't know, it's still a newfangled thing. I haven't figured it out. The millennials are on it, I hear, okay? But I'm sure the TV's the right way to go. Well, no, it just doesn't work. Oh, there's a millennial.
God, I can't get enough of this B-roll. It's the best. Look at how happy he is.
I know, it's because he's watching his cell phone instead of a Ridley Scott movie.
All right, we gotta do one more story before we wrap up the second hour. Okay, this is probably one of my favorite stories of the day. Donald Trump, someone who has claimed that he does not like exercise because he believes that humans have a finite amount of energy, has been awarded a black belt in Taekwondo. Now, has he actually been taking Taekwondo classes following his electoral loss? No. But he has gotten a participation belt. Now, Kukkiwon, the World Taekwondo headquarters located in South Korea, presented former US President Donald Trump a Taekwondo 9th Dan black belt. Kukkiwon President Lee Dong-seop made a visit to Mar-a-Lago to bestow him the honorary 9th Dan certificate and a set of Taekwondo wear. In fact, just to prove that this did in fact happen and that the former president of the United States did in fact get a participation belt, here he is donning the Taekwondo apparel for the world to see.
Yeah, he does look like a Taekwondo expert.
And look,
oh, there it is. I mean, look, he's making the fist motion.
Yep, he nailed it, absolutely nailed it. And look, unfortunately, this is something that really got under Ben Shapiro's skin. He even gave a speech about it. Let's watch.
Any system that rewards skills has excellent externalities for third parties. In any society, some people are going to be rewarded and some people are not going to be rewarded as much. The question is, what metric do you use in order to delegate who is rewarded and who is not? Presumably, as a society, we would like to reward people such that the externalities of their activities make our lives better. That's why we reward Bill Gates for creating Windows. That's why we reward Elon Musk for making Tesla. Right? The system rewards that labor specifically because it makes a lot of people, it makes their lives better and it makes their lives easier.
So, Ben Shapiro believes in meritocracy, and so he saw Donald Trump donning a belt that he did not earn, and he's upset about it, understandably.
Or perhaps he wasn't talking about Donald Trump and won't. Remember in the beginning, Shapiro was a bit of a never Trumper. And then when he saw that his audience loved Trump, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to kiss his ass. Don't, you got a participation trophy? Well, the real thing is participation trophies. You don't want to actually earn it. Meritocracies, no. As long as Trump is getting it, participation trophies are awesome.
Look, honestly, I think all of this is goofy. I don't really care. I'm not offended by it. I prefer it because those photos are fantastic.
Yeah, there's one other photo you should take note of. In the background, that's Donald Trump with Kim Jong-un, the North Korean dictator.
It's amazing.
I mean, if Obama had taken pictures with a North Korean dictator and being all happy and smiling and bowing down to North Korean generals, Fox News would have lost their minds. Now the right wing's like, no. Communist dictators are the way to go. No, you do this, you do the Taekwondo thing and celebrate it with communist dictators in the background. Yes, communism for the win. Wait, what?
Trump also said that he would wear the Taekwondo suit in Congress if he's elected president again in the future.
Dude, now I kind of want it. Now I kind of want it though. I mean, that's the only thing that has ever made me want to have Trump get into Congress or anything else. Dude, if he shows up like that in Congress, I'm gonna love that. Okay, that's hilarious. Yeah, you know what? Humiliate Kevin McCarthy. If the Republicans win the House, why does he get, anybody could be Speaker of the House. You don't even have to be in Congress. Put on your noob robe. I bet you are a 9th degree belt or whatever, right? Just go in there and be like, yeah. The only other guy who got the honorary one, Vladimir Putin. Of course. All right, for the members, we got an amazing bonus episode for you guys, just for you guys. We're gonna make fun of Kid Rock. He has a new song where he seems to be riding a penis. I love it. Okay, it's hilarious. TYT.com/join. The link's down below. Join button is right there if you're watching on YouTube, right underneath us. Members, we'll see you in a minute.